I want to welcome you all to OCCA, to Orange County Center for Contemporary Art's virtual opening reception of our new exhibition, Fresh Start. Thank you for joining us. And after a brief introduction to OCCA, sharing our upcoming exhibitions, we'll show the works of our 14 of our artists, and each of them will talk as their work is shown. So I want to start by introducing Jeffrey Frisch, who, Jeff, please unmute yourself. And he is our executive director, and we need to thank him for keeping us going through this challenging time for the many things he's done, including getting OCCA outfitted so we can follow public health protocols and successfully applying for 2 grants to give us the money so that we can accomplish that. So thank you, Jeffrey.
My pleasure. Got to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the point right now is it's sort of my turn, right?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, those of you that are seeing this image, that's OCCA at night. OCCA's history is we're technically right now in our 41st year. It won't be. We just had our 40th anniversary during 2020, which you'll just have to ignore, I guess. OCCA started in 1980 from 5 artists that were grads out of Cal State Fullerton's master's program, and they started a gallery because there was nowhere for them to show contemporary art in Orange County, and their professor, the very, very famous George Herms, told them, start your own gallery. So they did, and here we are 40 years later. As far as that goes, you know, the gallery is, as everybody probably knows, it's artist run and artist owned, and I think that can sort of sum it up.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And it's a fantastic space. And here's just some pictures from a show that we had. You can see how useful the space is. Here's a back room where we can put in colored lights, among other things. And here's another picture, just to entice those of you who haven't been there to come see it when it's more readily viewable. Okay, yes. And now Evelyn Alou, our assistant director, who is also chair of our education committee, and in so doing, in carrying out that work, she helps us reach our mission of outreach. She puts together a lot of outreach education activities. So Evelyn, take it.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the upcoming shows that we're having, and we've got a great lineup in front of us. And before I talk about car culture, I just wanted to acknowledge Rob Mintz, who does a fantastic job writing. And if you haven't had a chance to read what he wrote, please go on to the OCCA website and read his thing. I'm just going to read a little bit of what he wrote, and it's talking about car culture. And he says, the car has been the subject of many avant-garde masterpieces. Hit the road with car culture. An open call, which is an open call, which I do believe January 11th is the date that they will actually announce the curator, assistant curator at MoCA, Brian Barcina, is actually going to let the ones know who have been accepted into the show. The show is going to run from February 6th through March the 20th. It's an online reception, which will be held on February 6th. There will be private appointments that can be made by calling OCCA, which is at 714-667-1517. I know I said that fast, but you can always find that on our website on OCCA.org. Following car culture, we're going to have Shane Guffaw Portraits, which is going to be held on March 27th through April 24th. The exhibition will be curated by Victoria Chapman and it's going to be amazing. It will be an installed exhibition, which is awesome. And there will be an opening reception, but I'm not sure of the date of when that will be. Hopefully we can have a regular opening, but if not, you'll understand with what we're going through that the regular protocol will be put into place. Following Shane Guffog's portrait exhibition, we will be having the Collaborate, Create, and Heal with Andrea Moni and Yuri Boyko. And it's curated by Andrea Moni, and has to do with the healing power of art. And it should be very interesting. It's going to run from May 1st to May 29th with a reception on May the 1st. And the artist will actually interpret and connect their what they use, whatever they use, whether I think there's an artist and a photographer and photography with the subject of healing. So that should be really rather interesting. And I do want to add just one thing to all of this, that we cannot predict what's going to happen in the next month or the next few months. So more things may be virtual than we wanted, or you may have to end up calling in and making appointments, and somebody will meet you there to let you see some of the shows. All the protocol is in place as far as temperature taking. You must wear a mask if you come to the gallery. We've got special no-touch hand things, self-flush toilets. I mean, we really fixed up for the pandemic. So hope you'll all be there. And I didn't even get a chance to wish you all a Happy New Year before I started talking. I think that's it. I think I covered everything, Beverly.
Thank you very much. I forgot to say Happy New Year also. But
golly,
we will be toasting the new year as a closing to this program. So now we are going to move on to the fresh start, where our artists will be speaking one at a time, and their slides will show while they're speaking. And Fresh Start is a show. Let me just read your introduction to it. A fresh start, a new year. Goodbye to 2020. Looking forward to 2021.
Yes,
hoping
indeed.
for a new beginning and better times. As I mentioned, this exhibition features current artists of the Orange County Center for Contemporary Art, more commonly referred to as OCCCA. So let's begin.
Well, I have two N's on my name, by the way.
Oh, Evelyn.
That's okay.
That was
Evelyn.
That was the typo, and I thought I had proofed it.
That's okay. Okay, we're starting out. First of all, let me say, as you all know, I'm an abstract artist. I haven't always been, but I am now, and I enjoy it completely. But abstract art for me is basically rooted in my experiences in the world, or perhaps in my social life, or even in my cultural life or political life. You never know what is going to come out of my being when I do my work. We started with this one that I see right now, and actually this painting was done, I don't have a title for it, because the fact that this painting was done while my husband was sick, and so I would go out and work on it. So I can't name it at this point, but as you can see, I work in a lot of layers. And for me, when I work on a painting, and you can move to other ones as you like, as they can see, I work in layers, and it's very, very important that my layers of paint dry. I never do a wet on wet application. It's always one dry before I add my other application. This particular painting is called Colors of Spring. This was done during the pandemic. It was done a couple of months after my husband passed away, and I worked in the house, which I usually work outside. but it had to do with spring and what was going on in my brain at that time. Only somebody knows, but not me. But at the same time, it came out as color of spring. And as you see, I use, when I say application, sometimes I'll start with a black canvas, sometimes I'll paint it all red, sometimes I'll paint it all blue, let it totally dry before I even begin to apply my paint. And then I love doing the line work. I mean, that to me is so exciting. I get so excited when I do that. So you have to understand, you'll see that in a lot of my work. And then I come back and more layers are put on top, put underneath. Okay, you can move on and I'll see what the next one has. Okay, this was layers again, but this one has to do with the ocean and under the sea, because a lot of times I think about ocean paintings. And on this particular painting, when the layers, and I put my paint down, I maybe let some dry, put more paint. Once it solidifies to a certain point, I can come in and push it and shove it and do what I want with it. So you can see some of the effects that I get in my work by playing with the paint. To me, as far as an abstract artist, you really are always experimenting and always working with new ideas and always trying new things. I do that all the time. This one is actually particle explosion, and it has to do with particles basically. And again, getting the paint to do what I want and getting it to move the way I want is all part of my work. Now, am I
Annie, I know you're there.
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
Okay, so I am an artist and a mathematician, and that's why my inspiration is more with science and what I can imagine and not what I see. But I have done a lot of figurative paintings before. So the first time I thought I wanted to be a painter, it was when I was studying mathematics at university, and I was imagining all my the spaces, mathematical spaces in color. And so this one, the first painting, most of the painting you are going to see are inspired by cosmology. And so this one, yes, the technique is watercolor on Yupo, and the Yupo is a very smooth plastic thing, and so watercolor it's non-absorbent at all. So what I love is there is randomness and fluidity. That's what I like. I do layers too, but I try to work on it when it's not dry. Because when it's dry, you can also wipe out. It's not like watercolor on paper. You can wipe out and put another layer. So this one is meandering paths because I'm thinking a lot about parallel universes. And so there are paths. You can see some of them, there are ladders. You can go from one universe to another one. And this one is more about mathematics. And you can imagine whatever you want in it. I love color and I love fluidity. And so this one has been inspired also by a book I have read. It was a book about, it was Our Mathematical Universe. I don't know if you know it. It's not very mathematical. It's easy to read, I think. This one, Red Expansion, you know, the universe is expanding all the time. Maybe it's not red usually, but I like it red too. So, and also there are a lot of turbulences in the universe, and you can see some also some black holes in this painting. And what can I say? Some galaxies, but you can see whatever you want. Usually people see, oh yes, there is a horse. and and so one of my customer has bought a painting because he has seen the head of a horse, but it was not the head of a horse. I didn't let him know. He bought it.
Thank you very much, Annie. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's okay.
Okay, great. Okay, Jeffrey, I know you're there.
Yeah, so you can just kind of continually cycle through. It's obviously a the title you can read. This is cutting edge art, and basically with my artwork, it's like there's four. I've been able to distill it down since I have to talk about it. There's like four basic elements of everything I'm doing, which is whimsy, whether it's visual or wordplay. I really like surrealism. There's some optical illusions, which is what this is, from a series called Optical Delusions and Impossible Objects, and just the wordplay arrows, but arrows. So you can see that. The basic idea in a lot of what I do is just try to kind of rearrange one's sensibilities. That's why I'm showing a lot of different pieces. This particular piece, before we come off of it, grew out of the advent of the artist village way back when, like the mid 90s, I guess. And there's a whole story behind it dealing with the water tower, and you can see it says high water graphics, and then on the water tower it says Carlos, because I was thinking about Carlos Santana, which is, you know, Santa Ana. So in any event, there's a very long story that's going to take a lot longer than 3 minutes, and I forgot to start my timer. Okay, so you can move on if you want, and we can move on.
You're okay.
And this one has quite a long title. It's called Skyworms with Iguana Keyboard, Giant Tree Frog, and Jupiter. The skyworms, I may have explained in the past, comes out of the book series Dune, where they have these giant sandworms. And I just thought, well, if he can have sandworms, I can have skyworms, because I deal with a lot of things dealing with flight and even deep space, which you can see at the bottom of the picture. It's kind of like where the Earth is broken off and you're looking off into deep space, and there's even a little UFO there in the center at the bottom. So anyway, that's really about it. That's the quality of what I work with, and the bottom line is that it's just a very, very strong obsessive need to make stuff, and that's basically what you're looking at. So I don't consider myself a painter, even though there's a few paintings in this, but like I said before, I think I consider it more like drawing with paint, which, if that makes any sense. But basically, I really work in three-dimensional assemblage. And the only one that's even close to that is the cutting edge art, which is a piece of black foam core with recycled X-Acto blades in the top, for those of you that recognized it. That's probably three.
Okay, I'm up. It's interesting, Jeff, you and I did not speak together about what we were going to say, but what I was going to start with, and I still will, is the four pieces that I'm showing represent some of my numerous approaches to making artwork. I work in series that include, and one of them was humor, whimsical things. I like to make people smile, and I make whimsical things, like Jeffrey. Social and political issues, and just intriguing and beautiful forms, and using nature as inspiration, and using natural materials to incorporate into my work. This first piece is made out of clay, stonework clay, and I actually developed the glaze to put on it. And it was inspired by this real iceberg. I took this picture. It was inspired by a trip that Jake and I took to the Antarctic. And the icebergs were just awesome. Here we are back again. And if anyone's wondering what the red, there is red on the icebergs. I think there's two things that form it. One of it may be some sort of a algae or something, but also penguin. There's a lot of pink on it. There's a lot of penguin poop on them. So, and it's named 10% above because, as you probably all know, 80 to 90% of the iceberg is submerged. You can't see it. They're just huge. This is alabaster taking flight, and it was fun to work in another medium. I like it. What can I say? This is called Swept Away. It's also made of Fillmore clay. It has no glaze on it. This was done by pit firing. A bunch of us went down to Doheny Beach. You dig a hole and you throw your bisque pieces in there, and then you throw maybe some charcoal, but seaweed and copper carbonate, just dry copper carbonate, and maybe some fruit and vegetables, and cover it up with more sand, and then pour the salt water on it and fire it at a low temperature for hours. And if you're lucky, you get something that looks nice. It's a hit or miss thing, which is also fun. And this is one of my whimsical fun things. It's self-explanatory. It's clay, and it's actually solid clay, and twice daily is the name. So I will. Oh, okay. Gila's ready now to go, so I just have to get back there. Oh, you're doing it, Jake. Right. Gila's first. Oh.
Hi, everybody.
I'm glad you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience. This is a acrylic piece on canvas. It's about you. I don't know if you can all see the whole painting, but at the bottom it's the tree of life with the vines growing, intertwined with the hands of many colors. And it's a piece about diversity. The idea is that the tree of life nurtures us all. We're all intertwined and joined together, and we're all fed from the same tree. The Hebrew writing is a prayer that is said for peace in the world and the nations. And the priest, the Jewish religion has a certain sect of people called Kohanim that say the prayer for all of us on Yom Kippur. So that's what this is about. This is a portrait of a friend of mine from Facebook. We've never met, but we communicate on Facebook, and the reason we became friends is that we seem to find each other in all kinds of places and discovered we had a lot of common interests. So this for me represents the border, reminds me of a beautiful burqa, which is supposed to cover the woman's face, but she's peeping through it and looking up. And she's somebody that her personality is very vibrant and wouldn't know a box if it hit her on the head. And I just really wanted to do a painting of her. So here it is.
Oh.
Okay, this is quite a large piece. It's 48 by 36. I was experimenting with a new technique called pouring, for those of you who know what that is. It looks easy, but it's really, really not. And this was one of the ones that I felt I really liked, and I finally felt like after months and months of doing technical tweaks to get what I want, this is what came out of it. So I just really love it, and it's fun, and it's just one of the pieces I really like. No profound meaning this time. This is a collection of leaves that I did in my favorite colors. It kind of reminds me of when the leaves fall off the trees and there's these carpets of leaves on the ground. But I wanted them to be in these colors and to still look alive. Even though they're lying on the floor, I wanted them to have some kind of life. So here they are.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheila.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Lamb. You can go to the first picture. I'm a photographer and been making aerial photography, sort of abstract of the landscape. This particular series, all 4 images are of the LA River and the channel, particularly as it goes through downtown. I've been photographing the LA River for quite some time, from the source, which is a football field up above LA, down to the Long Beach Harbor. But this channelized section is really quite interesting because you have all this graffiti that's been covered over, but it's become a new kind of image. Let's go to the next one. And so you have, just so you have some ability to see the image, the river, if you would, is on the left side here. And then it kind of slopes and kind of goes up the hill, and all the white is the covered up graffiti, which then I think becomes its own kind of sort of abstract impressionistic image of the landscape. And so I've been working on this series now for a number of years, flying in a helicopter, open doors over Los Angeles, and kind of going through the channel. And you have to be somewhat careful with the wires and such, but have very good pilots. And I've been collecting. The reason this is sort of a fresh start for me, if you would, is that I'm starting to assemble all my images into kind of a retrospect of the aerial pictures. And in this particular group is about 35 images of the LA River. So these are 4, and these are on, some of these are on display at the Zinc Cafe in Mateo Bar in Los Angeles, both at 40 by 60 and 30 by 40. So they're quite fun to see. Is just sort of what I call tapestries. That's why they're vertical in this sense. Let's see what the next one is here. So you can just see, it's sort of on the very left, if you would, that would be kind of the walking trail or the running trail to kind of go through, and then just the bottom of the seabed. So these are my aerial abstract images.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad people could make it. It's just nice to be together anyway, isn't it? Sounds like somebody has a dog.
Mine.
Oh. I'm going to just talk in general about this series of work, so you can kind of just scroll through it with the time allotment, because they're all influenced by the great painter Richard Diebenkorn. They're actually reflections of Diebenkorn paintings. And if you're not familiar with Richard Diebenkorn, well, from my experience, He was hired at UCLA in 1966 when I was a 18-year-old art student there in 66, 67. And looking back, I knew so little about art then, but I did admire Diebenkorn's paintings that I saw in a faculty show on campus. It was just in some minor gallery in the building that was the art department. Luckily, I had one teacher who took me under his wing because in those days, teachers could date students. Yeah. We visited art studios, galleries. He took me to LACMA to see that exhibition, Sculpture in the 60s, which was pretty big at that time. And I was shocked to see the Backseat Dodge 1938 that Ed Kienholz did. That show awoke something in me. I realized then that art could be anything. By 1967, the painter Diebenkorn had stopped drawing the figure at all, and he had started making the Ocean Park series. And he worked on those for over 20 years, pretty much almost the rest of his life, that type of stuff. So anyway, over the years after that, I would seek out Diebenkorn's work and rarely miss a chance to see it when a few pieces were exhibited here and there in Southern California from time to time. But when Sarah Bancroft curated the major exhibition Ocean Park series at Orange County Museum of Art, I was able to visit his paintings a lot. The show was up for about 3 months, and I think I went 10 times on the weekends. And so what I have to say about these, they're reflections of Richard Diebenkorn paintings, and they covered the polished concrete floor of the museum. No one seemed to notice all the beauty below our feet. We just walked around on it. They were abstractions of abstractions, but they were trying to steal the show, calling out, "Notice me," and I did. There they were, the Ocean Park series taking on a new form in the reflections. And of course, I couldn't resist. I had to photograph them. So for me, these are, it's very different from what I usually photograph. I usually do black and white. But these were a fresh start, something different. So I hope you enjoy them. Thanks, Beverly.
Thank you, Robin. Okay. Kurt, you're up.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Good. Happy New Year, everyone. So in a past incarnation, I was a fashion photographer before I became legally blind. And I thought during this COVID shut-in situation that I would explore some of my past black and white imagery and then recontextualize it by creating photo montages with the imagery and putting the images, the portraits, into backgrounds that incorporated paintings and graphic design. So I'm sort of making these more contemporary. These were images that I shot primarily in the 1980s. And I was always very much inspired by the punk and leather scenes that were happening in the city of Chicago, where I had moved from. I was originally from Chicago. So I also was, during that same period in the 1980s, was very much intrigued by the work of Patrick Nagel, who really made these iconic images of women, and he did these incredible graphic illustrations of women, and they were like porcelain white. And a lot of his work appeared in magazines like Playboy. But also they were very collectible, and a lot of people in Chicago and a lot of galleries featured his work during the 80s. So I kind of wanted to take my black and white work and inspired by Nagel to try to generate that same feeling of high style and glamour, and but also kind of under the guise of more of a punk and leather fashion statement. And I think some of these I like what I've done with how I've appropriated some of these graphic backgrounds and blended it in with the black and white with the colors, and also just the kind of movement that you get with this, the feeling. It just adds a whole nother layer and a whole nother kind of jolt of electricity in the work. I think there's one more that should be after this one. Oh, it's not there. Huh, that's
Let me
too
just
bad.
count. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was a fourth one, but oh well, I guess it's okay.
I don't know what to say. I tried to check. So sorry.
It's all right.
I tried to.
It was a good representation of what I'm trying to do with my current work. So, but I really have been enjoying the process, and it's given me a lot to do being sheltered in place with this COVID situation.
I want to encourage people to go online where you will find his fourth piece. Sorry.
It's okay.
As much as I tried to proof and check back and forth, still missed some. Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you.
Okay, Carolyn, I know you're here.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Hi. Yeah, I know. Can you get it on anyway? No. Okay. Oops. Looks like you're frozen, Carolyn.
So I'm Carolyn Yarnell, and composer and visual artist and photographer and writer. So all of these pictures I've done during the pandemic. Somebody very close to me suddenly passed away on June 11th of a massive heart attack in Egypt. And so all of mine are about life and death and the afterlife and resurrection, centering around Egypt and Egyptian gods, old Egyptian gods. So this one is the Eye of Horus, and that offers protection. And it's, so I've been painting kind of like eyes of protection. So this is just an oil painting. Yeah, this is also the Eye of Ra, but it's more abstract painting. This one's big. It's like 48 by 36. And it also, to me, represents the eye, but abstract. Yes, and this one is Osiris, and also the Eye of Protection. Yeah, I think that was the first one I did. I started painting a lot, but now I'm back to writing. So, but I kind of not composing that much right now because all of the orchestras are shut down. Everything's like shut down. There's no performances. All commissions are like off. And this is Ashraf, who passed away suddenly, like within 11 hours, he was in the grave. And that's his grave. His niece took the picture. It's pretty awful because they couldn't have any ceremony or anything. And he was just like, within 11 hours of his heart attack, there he is. But there is no such thing as death, really. there's a new beginning, a fresh start.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Very good.
Okay.
Oh, well, first of all, greetings. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Well,
I can.
greetings, everyone. Thanks to everyone for the effort put forth to put this together. It's really cool. My apologies for joining kind of late, but I'm glad to be here with you. So I'll speak quickly. Is there a bit of a time limit?
3 minutes.
5 minutes?
3 if you can.
I'll go with 3. Okay.
Also, if you can get a little more light on your face, we could see it.
Oh, I'll turn this way. Is that any better?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, well, this first piece, well, first of all, let me say what the 3 pieces have in common are these, thank you, are these organic forms that you see in the pieces. 2 of the pieces are simply wall pieces. This one is an installation piece, obviously, with several elements. The images on the wall pieces are organic, I would say, obviously, and are expressions of my fascination with processes of growth and transformation as I perceive it and am fascinated by it and express it with these organic forms. The hope being that they somewhat capture a sense of growth and change and transformation and movement. This body of work really started with a cathartic experience that I had seeing this sonogram of my daughter, Angelina, when I got to experience that for the first time. And that experience led me into a renewed sense of amazement and fascination with these processes of growth and transformation that we call life, in a very sort of physical, biological way. So that was my beginning, and the other 2 pieces are part of that process. And this one you're seeing here, called Rest in Place, is the most recent. And it obviously is an installation piece that for me has a lot of meanings to it. It's a bit of a pun in a sense, having to do with the idea of people buying artwork to hang over their couch, which is, in the art world, it's sort of an interesting, that's always been kind of an interesting subject to me. There's sort of to me, there's a certain group of artists who sort of frown at that idea that people that buy artwork to match their couch are not quite as perhaps erudite or something as some people wish to be. But my personal feelings are different. I love selling a painting to someone because they feel like it'll look great over their couch. To me, when a person is thinking that way, they're thinking like an artist, and in terms of their home and putting things together in an artistic way. So there's that's sort of a minor concern. But Rest in Place, I was playing with the idea of a bench, which is a place to rest and sit. But of course, when we think of the term resting place, we think of the grave. That's a term used to mean that sometimes, our final resting place. So my resting place is these images of growth and transformation on the wall, and beneath them the other items. These other 2 I don't need to spend as much time to talk about. The titles refer to how many months or days after I saw my daughter's sonogram that I finished the piece. So 34th month, 5th day, that was the 34 months and 5 days after I had that experience seeing my daughter's sonogram. And this one's 23 months and 2 weeks afterwards. And the last thing I'll say, just a little bit about the medium. It's mixed media with charcoal, graphite, and paint, mostly on wood panel. And that's it. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And now, thank you for the discussion and sharing your artwork with everyone. So let's all unmute. You have to do it yourself. If you would like to unmute yourself, if you have any questions. And while you're doing that, I will start out with a couple questions that I have. I have a question for Kurt and for Evelyn. Okay, Evelyn, you're at the head of the alphabet, so I guess you're always going first. You mentioned that one can't tell when you start your artwork what will come out. I assume you were talking about yourself also.
Say
Is
that
that
again?
correct?
I said that when I start my artwork, I don't know how it's going to start out. Is that what you said?
Yeah, or how it's going to end.
No, I do not really. I don't know. You know, keep working with it until it works, till it does what I want it to do. I won't let it boss me around, basically, and I keep working at it. And I never know for sure, you know, how it's gonna turn out. I have ideas and some preconceived ideas, but for the most part, no. I let it grow with me as I go.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of artists do that, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
I love the way your work comes out.
Thank you.
Kurt, now I'm going back into my literal. My right brain is sneaking in here. In a couple of your pieces, you had basically removed. There were negative spaces for part of the models. It was the leg. One was just below the knee, and or the arm. And I just wondered if there were any significance to that.
Not that I had planned on. No, it's just the way I chose to frame the images when I was photographing them, and then of course putting them into those backgrounds. You know, altering the backgrounds and montaging different backgrounds behind them. It's just kind of I was just kind of playing around with it, and when it had the right kind of aesthetic, I just went ahead with just a sense of the feeling. I really like to work with very iconic imagery, and so to me, these images are very iconic in the style and the feeling that these models are projecting. And then I think it's just embellished by how I incorporate these backgrounds behind them.
Interesting. Okay, my eye, I just have trouble keeping my eye away from her, just below her left knee.
Well, you do have to focus on those heels there.
Yeah, but
She's
also
got some incredible footwear there that I think kind of you want to be drawn to see that.
Okay.
You can just go for it.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Just speak up.
Carolyn, a little bit more about her piece. Is Carolyn still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi. I thought the piece of the gravesite was fascinating. That one, that's the actual gravesite. And then what is the photograph?
Yeah.
Is that the photograph?
Well, the photograph is Ashraf in Rome. And yeah, it's him. He's in bed and he's wrapped in the sheets.
Yeah.
And like right after he had his heart attack, he was like immediately taken away and wrapped in white linen, and then just put in the grave. And I asked his niece to go to the grave in Egypt. He's buried in Luxor, and she took a picture for me and sent it to me, and it just seemed like, you know, what his friends, they're Muslim, and they have a very deep faith, a very beautiful faith, and I don't have a faith like that, because they look at death a little different. Like, I'm totally devastated, I cry all the time, but they have the belief that, you know, that we belong to God, our life is borrowed, and they see it as they're going to a better place, you know. And so to me, it just seemed like this time, you know, and just the fact that none of his family could even get to the funeral because of the pandemic was like, it's just awful. So
I thought the
that's what
green,
that meant to me.
the green drapery looked very much like
That was,
Renaissance painting, you know, and you were in Rome at that
yeah,
time.
we met in Rome, and we have the most amazing relationship. It's totally predestined of how we met. And he like told me he loved me the first time he saw me. And then I gave him the wrong phone number because I thought he was this aggressive man. But then we ran into each other again in Rome, and he had my phone number memorized. And so then we became like totally crazy in love. And then, you know, we went to Berlin, and then in 2001, I visit him in Egypt. And then right after that, the World Trade Center happened, and then we couldn't go back and forth anymore, but we always remained friends, and we had our own life and everything. But then last Christmas, like, we started talking more deeper, and we were planning to get together again. You know, we wanted to meet again, you know, somewhere in the world, because we like to travel. And then he like suddenly passed away during the pandemic, where we couldn't see each other. And it seemed like these two great world events happened, the World Trade Center and the pandemic, that kept us apart. So I kept pretty vivid diaries from Rome. So now I'm writing him a book.
All right. Thanks, Carolyn.
It's going to end with chats at the end, and it's pretty devastating what happened.
Yeah. Is Tom
That's
Lamb
what it
still
is.
here?
Yep, Tom's here.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about the river series. You know, Richard Diebenkorn was really interested in aerial photography too.
You know, it's funny that you followed me that way, because I certainly had spent a lot of time looking at Diebenkorn's work, and
Yeah.
consider the LA River series to be like the Ocean Park series or the Albuquerque series. And
Yeah.
I've patterned a lot of my work kind of in those kind of series, and found your pictures of, you know, the essence on the polished floors to be pretty amazing. You know, like that. And as soon as I realized what they were, I went, oh my goodness, that's great. And it was, I felt like, you know, kind of interesting that you followed me after I was talking about these and didn't, you know, give any mention to Diebenkorn or to, you know, Clay or anyone else that, you know, I get inspired by, because these images really are inspired by painters.
Yeah, they look like, especially that last one.
Well, Tom,
I don't know
yeah,
if you can bring up that last one that Tom
yeah,
did.
LA River D. LA River D is incredible.
Just absolutely beautiful.
I think it's D, that one.
That one.
That is incredible.
That's one.
I think
Beautiful.
what I like about Tom's work is he managed to make absolutely beautiful pictures, but they have substance and content to them. Some people make, you know,
Tom,
beautiful pictures, but they're really not about anything.
yeah,
But you're-
Tom, I do have a quick question. Do you manipulate the color at all, or is that the actual?
That's algae in the river.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you've not changed any of those colors at all. I'm looking at the beiges and the whites and everything. They're beautiful.
No, you know, the whites cover, you know, paint, you know, it's layers of stuff on it, right? And
Beautiful.
then, no, it's just those colors are just what's there.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
So it was devoid of water?
Hmm?
So it was devoid of water?
Yeah, they're little, I mean, you see
There's
the
a
little
creek.
kind of rivulet of water.
Yeah, right here.
And then the green is algae.
The algae.
Oh, the muddy water. Ooh.
At the top is like a drop. I mean, there's like a
Beautiful.
cut and it falls into another layer of the channel.
Well, since we're talking about color, I've got a question for Evelyn.
Oh,
Put you on the spot.
yeah.
Hey, we don't have anything else to do. We're all locked up in our houses.
Right. Yeah. No kidding. This is time well spent. Well, I've enjoyed your work so much, Evelyn. I've been attracted to abstract work for a long time. And I would say, first of all, I think that you have a real mastery of color.
Thank you.
I have to say for myself, in all honesty, I'm not as fascinated with color as a lot of people are. I have this weird kind of attitude. I think of color as a function of space in a weird kind of sense. But what I love about your work, which especially I think is so strong to me, is your use of shape and line especially. I just see such energy and power in the way that you incorporate line into your work. So my question is, how do you talk about your use of line when you talk, if you're talking to a group of students or people who are just art lovers, and you're talking about the specific idea of line and how you use it and why you use it the way you do? I just would really be interested in hearing what you would say.
Are you speaking of the way my work flows across the canvas?
No, I'm talking about actual line. Like I look at the piece behind you right now.
Oh, yeah. That one is actually on the edge, and this one was actually, I was talking about Dana Point, houses built on the edge, and the beauty and the ugliness of erosion. And so that was what this picture was all about. And you're talking about the line, how I do the fine white line type stuff.
Yes, right.
Yeah, well, you know what? You start working and you know when it's right. You start applying and you know the direction you want to go with it. And you know when it's ready. You know when it works. You know, I will do lines for a long time, and sometimes I can't get it to work the way I want, but I never leave it alone, and I will get it the way I want eventually. It's a matter of composition and the way I relate to the piece, how it looks to me. Basically, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever, that leads me to another question. Do you ever get to a point where you're in that part of the process, let's say in that piece behind you, and you're working the line in, do you ever get to a point to where you think, oh, I just went a little too far? I just did a little too much of that.
Well, I got to tell you that the advantage to me, like I said, I work in layers and they have to dry in between I make sure every layer dries before I put the next one. If I put a layer, if I were to put a layer on here, the top layer, didn't like it, I get out the garden hose and hose it off.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I work outside all the time, and if something doesn't work for me, I just get rid of it. I get rid of that layer, but the other layers are still fine.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Sure. Redo it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evelyn,
yeah.
If I can say, I've heard you say this several times that, you rework it. And in clay, the trick is to learn not to overwork something, because you've got the problem of the clay being overworked and it'll just collapse or won't do what you want to do. And it's knowing when to quit. One of the hardest things to learn in clay is knowing when to quit.
Well, I think that's with any art.
Yeah.
You know, and for a while I was doing really minimal work, very little bit. And I think that you have to know when to stop. And sometimes you have to leave it alone and come back to it a month later and say, okay, it's done. You know, why, and that's just the way your brain works when it comes to art.
Well, I think, what my mind goes to now at this point is I think of Jackson Pollock as one of the great masters of line from the 1950s. And I've seen videos of him talking about his work and saying that there were times when he felt that he did not stop when he should have, and that he went too far and felt like he ruined a piece.
Well, that can probably happen. I mean, you have work that you do overwork and it is ruined. You just leave it alone, paint over it, just get rid of the canvas or whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah. You know, at the Norton Simon Museum, there's a lovely little painting by Vincent van Gogh. And if I forget what is that, might have been one of the reapers or something, sowers or something like that. But if you go up and read the information about it, it tells you that through the use of X-ray technology, experts discovered that he finished a painting and did just that. I talk to my students about that, and I tell them, well, evidently he finished a painting, stood back and looked at it, and then said, you know what, that sucks. I don't like it. And he gessoed over it and even rotated it. I think originally it was vertical and he turned it horizontal the other way around. And then he did another whole painting on top of it. So a Van Gogh painting is lost forever because he redid it. The context that I use to talk about that to my students is that that in art, it's okay to fail. And all of us do sometimes. And even the great Van Gogh, I find comfort in that Van Gogh completed a piece and said, that's no good, I'm going to redo it.
Yeah. No, but that all makes sense. You know, there's many times that I think you work on a piece and you absolutely dislike it. I mean, you really don't like it. You shove it under the bed or whatever you do with it, and you get rid of it for a while. You get it out 2 or 3 years later and go, oh my God, this is awesome. And I think at sometimes we as artists work ahead of what we understand. We do things that we don't really understand yet. And so we don't like it until we get to a point in our growth or whatever you want to call it, that, this is all making sense now. So I think that happens a lot to artists.
I love that thought. I love that. Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I've had experiences where I've worked out in the studio late at night and got something, go, wow, this is great. And then I go back out the next morning and I go, what was I thinking? Whoa, what
we do? What we do.
Yeah. That's a wonderful way to look at it, though. I love that thought. Yeah.
Are you trying to tell us we're talking too much?
I probably am.
No, it's a really interesting conversation, but I'm thinking, I don't know if there are any more questions that people want to ask.
That's a pretty 2021 sign there.
No one's speaking up.
Great sign.
Okay, and again, thank everyone for who participated tonight. We thought it'd be fun to have a toast to 2021, and for that, I'm calling on Robin. And I also forgot to give Robin credit for that great introduction that she wrote to Fresh Start about saying goodbye to 2020 and looking forward to 21, because I love it. I love it. So
there we go.
And thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, Beverly, for doing the heavy lifting, and especially to Jake tonight for being our support team. We really appreciate it. Really lucky at OCCA, and it's with a lot of gratitude to all of the artists of OCCA that have put so much into making it successful. If there's anybody here visiting that's interested in becoming a member of OCCA, we're always looking for artists that want to make a contribution to the community and participate in the gallery and learn more about what it's like to run a gallery. There's a lot of opportunities for exhibition as well as curation. So be sure to check out our OCCA.org website on how to become a member. We are looking for a few good artists and new members now, especially during the time of COVID. I think before I thought we should wait till the COVID's over, but this has been a godsend for us to all still be connected and to have each other during this period. We would be so isolated. Most artists work alone all the time anyway. We're so lucky to have each other at OCCA. It's just a great support system. So I
can't wait for us to get back together again, at the gallery.
Me too. I'm glad we've had Zoom so we can meet and talk and see each other. And tonight was special to hear everybody talk about art. So, well, with that, here's to 2021.
Absolutely.
Have a toast with gratitude and hope. Looking forward to a new future and a fresh start.